For the next few seconds, don't breathe. Eventually, your body will ignore you. Your lungs will tighten. Your brain will override your decision, forcing you to inhale whether you want to or not. That simple breath feels ordinary, but the reason your body refuses to live without it is connected to the largest animal that has ever existed. Right now, somewhere beneath the ocean, a blue whale is beginning its ascent. It is bigger than every dinosaur that ever walked the earth. Its heart weighs as much as a small car. Its tongue is heavier than an elephant, yet despite spending its entire life in the sea, it is racing toward the surface for the very same reason you just inhaled, to breathe. Think about how strange that is. The biggest animal in the history of the world lives entirely in the sea, and yet it cannot breathe underwater. It has to come up every single time. Why would the ocean's greatest giant be chained to the open air like that? The answer took 50 million years to write, and it does not begin in the water. It begins on dry land, beside a muddy river, with an animal you would never recognize as a whale. Picture a creature about the size of a wolf. 4 legs, a long snout, a tail, fur, even small hooves at the tips of its toes. It runs along the banks of ancient rivers in what is now Pakistan, hunting in the shallows, drinking, listening for danger. Its name is Pakistan, and it lived roughly 50 million years ago. It looked nothing like a whale. It walked. It ran. It belonged completely to the land, and yet hidden inside its skull, there was already a secret. In the early 1980s, a paleontologist named Philip Gingerich was searching the dry hills of Pakistan when he uncovered that skull. At first, it seemed like just another extinct land mammal, nothing special, but the ear bones told a different story. The fine structure of that ear matched the ears of whales, not the ears of dogs or deer or anything else running around on 4 legs. This little riverside hunter was carrying the hidden signature of every whale that would ever live. It was the opening line of a journey back into the ocean. Now sit with that idea for a moment, a land animal slowly walking back into the sea. Doesn't that feel backward? It should, because life had already done the hard work of escaping the water. Hundreds of millions of years before Pakistan, your own distant ancestors were fish. They lived in the sea, and then, more than 350 million years ago, something extraordinary happened. A handful of those creatures dragged themselves out of the water, gulped air, and began the slow conquest of the land. Lungs, legs, backbones built for gravity. Every step away from the ocean was a step toward you. So here is the strange truth at the heart of this story. Your ancestors spent an unimaginable stretch of time fighting their way out of the sea. The whale's ancestors turned around and walked straight back in. From the very same starting point, 2 roads split apart. One road led to creatures that would build fires, then villages, then cities, then civilizations. The other road led to the largest animals that have ever existed, singing to each other through the cold, black depths of the ocean. Same origin, opposite destinies. But evolution does not happen in a single leap. It happens in tiny, almost invisible steps, spread across so much time that the mind struggles to hold it. Generation after generation, a little more time in the water, a little less time on land. A few million years after Pakistan, the rivers held a new kind of creature. In the 1990s, a researcher named Hans Thewissen discovered its fossil and gave it a name that says everything: Ambulocetus, the walking whale. This animal still had 4 legs, but they had grown into broad, powerful paddles. It could still haul itself onto the shore, but it moved through the water like an otter or a crocodile, pushing with its spine and its huge back feet. It was caught exactly halfway between 2 worlds. Not quite land, not quite sea. A creature standing in the doorway between what its ancestors were and what its descendants would become. And the changes kept coming. Watch what happened to the face. In the earliest of these creatures, the nostrils sat right at the front of the snout, exactly where you would expect a nose to be. But over millions of years, generation by generation, those nostrils began to drift. backward, upward, inch by inch, across countless lifetimes, they migrated toward the top of the head. Why? Because an animal that lives by surfacing for air does not want to lift its whole face out of the water every time it breathes. It only wants to lift the smallest possible part. So the nose climbed the skull until it sat right on top, and it became something new, the blowhole. The next time you see a whale, exhale that towering spout of mist. Remember what you're looking at. You're watching a nose that walked all the way to the top of a head. The legs have their own quiet story. As these animals committed more and more fully to the water, their back legs became useless. Useless for swimming, useless for walking, and evolution does not waste effort on the useless. So the hind limbs shrank and shrank and shrank again until they vanished from the outside of the body entirely, but they did not vanish completely. Here is one of the most haunting facts in all of biology. Inside the body of a modern whale, buried deep in the flesh where no leg could ever be useful again, there are still tiny bones, a small broken set of pelvis and hind limb bones floating in the muscle, attached to nothing. They cannot walk, they cannot swim, they do nothing at all. They are vestigial, which simply means they are leftovers, fragments of an old design that the body never fully erased. They are silent reminders carried for 50 million years of a time when this giant of the sea ran on 4 legs along a riverbank, and it goes deeper still, deeper than the bones, down into the way a whale is built before it is even born. When a whale embryo is developing in the earliest weeks, something astonishing happens. The embryo begins to grow hind legs. Tiny limb buds appear, exactly where the back legs of a land animal would form. For a brief window, the unborn whale starts building the legs of its ancient ancestors, and then the body stops. It reverses course. It reabsorbs those budding legs back into itself before the calf is ever born. Every whale alive today began, in some small way, to grow the legs it would never use, and then quietly took them back. Why would a body do that? Why build something only to destroy it? Because evolution does not start from a blank page. It edits what came before. The instructions to build legs are still written into the whale, deep in its biology, and every new whale begins to read them before life crosses them out. The land animal is still in there. It never truly left. You can hold this story in your own 2 hands. Look at a whale's flipper. From the outside, it is a smooth, stiff paddle, perfect for steering through the deep. But take an X-ray and the illusion shatters. Inside that flipper are 5 long, slender finger bones. 5. Arranged in the same pattern as the bones inside your own hand. The whale is not waving a fin at you. It is reaching out with a hand that forgot how to be a hand. Hidden inside every flipper is the blueprint of the limb that once gripped the muddy banks of an ancient river. So how did this small 4-legged runner become the biggest creature ever to exist? Once the ocean opened up, there was almost no limit. On land, gravity crushes anything too large. Your skeleton can only hold up so much weight before it breaks. But water holds you. Water carries the weight that bones cannot. So the ancestors of whales grew and kept growing into giants that could never have stood up on land at all. The sea didn't just welcome them back, it set them free to become enormous. But the sea never gave them everything. There was one gift it could never offer: air. And this is where the whole story circles back to that breath you took at the very beginning. A whale can dive into crushing darkness and stay down for an astonishing length of time. Some can hold a single breath for over an hour, but every dive a whale takes is exactly that, a held breath. No matter how deep it goes, no matter how long it stays, it must always return to the surface and breathe, because despite 50 million years in the ocean, it never stopped being an air-breathing mammal. It never stopped being, at heart, a land animal. That is the secret the blowhole has been keeping. That is what those leftover leg bones are whispering. The largest animal that has ever lived is still, in its deepest biology, a creature of the land, surfacing again and again to take the same kind of breath your ancestors fought their way out of the ocean to take. The molecular biologists confirmed it from another direction entirely. When researchers like Norihiro Okada compared the DNA of whales to other living animals, they found the closest living relative was not a fish, not a shark, nothing from the sea at all. It was the hippopotamus, a heavy, snorting, four-legged land mammal. The giant of the deep and the giant of the riverbank are cousins, branches of the same family tree, one that wandered into the water and one that only ever waded in. Think about the two roads one last time, the same ancient animals, the same shared origin. One lineage stayed on the path your ancestors took, and somewhere along that road, language appeared, and tools, and the strange thinking creature reading these words. The other lineage turned back toward the water and became something vast and unknowable, singing songs across thousands of miles of open ocean. Neither path was right, neither was wrong. They were simply different answers to the same ancient question. Where do you belong? You belong to the air. You always have. Your fish ancestors crawled out and never looked back, and every breath you take is the inheritance of that escape. The whale belongs to the air too, even now, even at the bottom of the sea. It just had to travel a much stranger road to keep it. So take a breath. You barely noticed it. And somewhere beneath the waves, the largest creature that has ever lived is beginning the same ritual, rising through the darkness toward the surface, chasing the one thing the ocean has never been able to provide: air.